were cold last night in their first game without Kevin Durant. It'd been 146 games since the Warriors dropped back-to-back regular season games until last night. Steph Curry, 2 for 11 from three-point range, and Klay Thompson also ice cold, 1 for 11 from three-point range. Now, before the loss Thursday night, here's what Charles Barkley had to say about the Warriors' chances without KD.
Without Kevin Durant, they got zero chance of winning the championship. Actually, with the addition the Cavaliers have made, they probably are the leader in the clubhouse. But without Kevin Durant, they got no chance of winning the championship. Zero? Well, let me tell you say zero. Because they're not going to beat the Cavaliers without Kevin Durant. They're not going to beat. I wasn't even finished. If they don't have Kevin Durant, I don't even think they get out of the West.
Barkley's putting a fork in them. He says zero chance. Max Kellerman, how concerned should Golden State be after last night?
Well, if they don't have Durant, Charles Barkley's absolutely right. I've been saying it. Many people have been saying it. They have zero chance to win the finals without KD, of course. And they may not get out of the West without KD. All those things are true. Let's talk about the concern right now, putting KD aside for a second, assuming, let's say, he'll be back for the playoffs but not the regular season. I'm not too concerned about the Warriors. What I saw last night and the day before, and even a little bit right before the KD injury, it's been a rare concurrent shooting slump from Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. We really haven't seen that in the last couple of years, where both of them go cold over a several-game stretch. But if you look at last night against a hot Chicago team, Warriors on the road, they played really good team defense, and even Jimmy Butler on national TV after the game, his analysis was they missed shots. So they're still creating matchup nightmares everywhere. They're still playing very well. They're coached up well. I know Kerr complained after the game, it's not just missing shots, it's all these other things. Nobody's perfect. But I saw a crisp, really good basketball team simply miss shots. Then the question is, why? Are they just going cold? Well, probably, but KD takes a lot of shots away from Steph and Klay. Steph averages 17 shots and change a game when KD is in the lineup, and Klay Thompson a little bit over 17 shots a game, both in that range. And all of a sudden, since KD went down, Steph is shooting 23 and change a game, and Klay is shooting over 20 times a game. So usually when that happens, it's not that they're streaky shooters, they're consistent shooters. Usually when that happens, the more touches you get, the better shooter you become. So if anything, not only do I expect them to emerge from this shooting slump and start to wreck teams again, I expect their shooting to, if anything, get better the more touches they see. Of course, with no KD, they're not as good as they were. They would not beat the Cavs. They might be trouble in the playoffs if they don't have them. But in terms of what we've seen last night, and even against Washington, I'm not that concerned.
Well, first of all, first things first. I appreciate the brilliance of Charles Barkley. Clearly, he watches First Take and he listens to his boy. Because he echoed basically what I said, and it just shows why he's such a brilliant commentator. He listens to his boy. The fact is the Cleveland Cavaliers are definitely the prohibitive favorites because of the acquisitions of Darren Williams with Andrew Bogut, and of course, you got Derek Williams earlier than that. But to get directly with Golden State, I'm not concerned about their shooting at all because shooters shoot, and sometimes you don't miss it. Lord knows I would know. The video from a few weeks ago show it. You wake up some days and just nothing there. It absolutely, positively happens. Yes, I'm comparing myself to Steph Curry. Obviously, I'm joking. The point that I'm trying to make to you is very, very simple. They will get out of their shooting slump. They will get out of their doldrums. They will find a way. Steve Kerr and his staff will find a way to have this offense relatively potent. But the reason why Charles Barkley, echoing my words, are so profound is because, yes, it's not just that Kevin Durant went down. It's also that Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut are gone. If Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut were on the squad, then nothing about your nucleus or your chemistry is disrupted. Even with Kevin Durant going down, you could just revert back to what we've been seeing from the Golden State Warriors over the past 2 years. But because Bogut is gone, because Harrison Barnes is gone, and Kevin Durant replaced them, and now he's out, now you're in a situation where if you're Klay and Steph and Draymond, it's foreign territory because you haven't had to play with your depth being compromised so glaringly. And as a result, now you really, really feel, as Max, you pointed out, like you have to do so much more. And that's where it becomes problematic because you have to do so more. Remember, they did a lot, but they didn't necessarily have to over the last 2 years. They flowed when they flowed, but they also had depth. Now this year, you didn't have it, but you sacrificed it for a big four, and along with Andre Iguodala. Now, without Kevin Durant and those other two aforementioned, you've got some trouble. I think even with Kevin Durant, Cleveland is the favorite, but without Kevin Durant, I think there's a legitimate argument that the Golden State Warriors may not even get out of the West.
Look, the analysis that when you add Durant to and take away Bogut and Harrison Barnes from a 73-win team, which there's no chance you're going to win 74 games, the next year. It's just so highly unlikely because you had to get a little lucky in addition to being so excellent.
They weren't trying to win 74.
Of course, it was a mistake to go after the 72 record even last year, I believe. Still, I think it's one of the reasons Steph may have been hurt. But that the argument, as you would say, Stephen A., for another day. Many people have had the analysis that, hey, do you add Durant to that and take away and mess with that chemistry? And I think health. And I think that that's a legitimate question. On the other hand, who among us who brings up that question wouldn't have made the move for Kevin Durant? In other words, it's one thing for everyone to say, and many people have, hey, I don't know if you want to mess with that, even to add Durant. Maybe you get worse in certain areas. It's not as good. You're disrupting chemistry. But who would actually have the courage of their convictions and pass on Durant? I offer nobody. Nobody makes, passes on that move. So that was going to happen. I also offer that even though those factors are in play, there's no way you can tell me that taking away Bogut and Barnes and adding Durant is a bad thing. Of course it makes you better, provided he's on the floor. And while I'm not, like you, Stephen A., I'm not concerned about their shooting. Clay and Steph are not streaky shooters. They're all-time great shooters, period. They're not volume shooters who need all those touches to stay hot, though it probably helps to get extra touches if you want to stay hot. So, all those things are true about the Golden State Warriors. And in Durant's case, of course, missing him makes you worse. The big takeaway from me is I have to admit, before the last couple games, over the last couple years, it was hard for me to imagine Golden State being so cold over, let's say, a best-of-7 stretch that they could actually lose a best-of-7 series because they got cold. All of a sudden, that question is entering my mind. Not worried about the shooting, even without Durant, but I have to admit the specter of them getting cold long enough to lose a series they should win has now crept into my thoughts.
I ain't worried about that. Shooters shoot, and they're going to make shots come postseason time. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about their depth and whether or not they've got the muscle to deal with what's going to get thrown in their direction, particularly without the services of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's there, they're going to the finals, but they could still lose. Without Kevin Durant, I'm not sure they're going to even make it to the finals.
Yeah, that's right. They can get bumped off by San Antonio, for example, if they don't have Durant. That's entirely possible. Houston, less likely, but also possible. It's possible. Houston's shooting so many threes. Daryl Morey finally has, I don't know if it's the last laugh, but it's a laugh because it's a triumph of analytics. And but the Golden State Warriors, Stephen A., have a lot, as I said yesterday, of what the Spurs have going for them, but with better players when Durant's healthy. They're coached up exceptionally well, and they even showed it on the defensive end yesterday.
All I know is this season that was supposed to be a foregone conclusion is getting a lot more exciting, gentlemen. We want to hear from you guys at home now. So the Warriors' lead in the West slips to only a few games over those surging scores. But will San Antonio catch the Warriors for the top seed? Go on Twitter now and vote. We'll share those results a little later in the show. Colin Kaepernick will not protest during the national anthem next season, but someone here is calling Cap a sellout. Don't miss that discussion coming up.
Paid, getting in a better situation to take care of his family. But in the end, he is, at 27 years old, he's been banged up the last couple of years. He's a guy that doesn't create separation. I mean, he makes good plays as far as going up and getting the ball, but he doesn't create at the line of scrimmage as far as separation. So you're going to have a quarterback that can throw in spots to him. There's a lot more work and more upside when you have to deal with Alshon Jeffries. And to me, he's never proven to be a number one guy. I mean, you know what you have in Brandon Marshall. You have a number one guy, but I don't know if Alshon has been that guy who can carry his team as the number one receiver.
When they were together, sometimes it was hard to tell who was better. And by
That's
the way,
not true.
Brandon Marshall, you mentioned.
Brandon Marshall was getting doubled. I mean, of course you're going to go.
That's right. Brandon Marshall was clearly better.
Poor Brandon Marshall, the best quarterback he ever played with was Jay Cutler, Stephen A. Look, if you're talking about who would you put them both on a scale, who weighs more in terms of value? Yes, I agree, Brandon Marshall, but there's more to it than that. If a team like New England got Brandon Marshall on the right kind of deal, that's one thing. But assuming there will be bidding for them, assuming we're talking about sizable contracts here over years and the attendant kind of cap issue that comes with that, I believe that Alshon Jeffries, not only the better deal, but over the next 5 years has a very good chance to be the better player. And at the end of that 5-year period, again, he'll be Brandon Marshall's age now.
Whatever receiver you're thinking about getting, it ain't for the next 5 years. It's for the next 2 to 3 years max. That's number one. And number two, let me tell you something, Max, right now. You could say Jay Cutler was the best quarterback Brandon Marshall ever played with, but not this past season. The season before last, Ryan Fitzpatrick was better than Jay Cutler has ever been as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think
2 years
so.
ago.
I mean,
2 years ago.
they're comparable.
2 years ago, yes.
2 years ago. 2 years ago, Fitzpatrick was okay. He was like league average, maybe.
And that's a hell of a lot. You're not getting my point. That's a hell of a lot better than Jay Cutler's ever been. That's my point.
Jay Cutler had
okay is a hell of a lot better.
Good. At least
Stephen A, I want to spin it forward. I know these guys want to go to contenders, but we have teams like the Bucks, Rams, Titans, Niners. They're all in need of a receiver. What do you think would be good potential fits for a Brandon Marshall or an Alshon Jeffrey?
I like an Alshon Jeffrey in Tampa because there are no title expectations. You know, with Evans and the crew, with Jameis Winston throwing the football, having an additional weapon at wideout, somebody that has the long term, that you got a long-term view with. I like that possibility for him. With Brandon Marshall, I'm thinking Pittsburgh. I'm thinking New England. I'm thinking spots like that, to be quite honest with you. Even Oakland, if he could find his way there. I like a Brandon Marshall in a situation like that.
Yeah, I can see Brandon Marshall, again, a veteran team that's on the cusp, the New England Patriots type of team. Hey, listen, even here we go with the Cowboys, but even a number 2 position with the Cowboys, I mean, you can find some spots for Brandon Marshall, but he's not going to go to a team that's in a rebuilding process. The kid wants to win a Super Bowl. He hasn't even won a playoff game. So he's trying to, don't start. But anyways, he's trying to get something.
Darren Woodson just sat up there and said he's never had a playoff win. He's never won a playoff game, but he needs to go to the Cowboys.
I teed that one up for you.
That's funny.
But when you look at Brandon Marshall, this is a guy that he hasn't won a playoff game. He's trying to get to the ultimate.
Then he don't need to go to Dallas.
But
he don't need to go to Dallas.
I'm not even saying just Dallas. I'm saying there's teams that are out there that deserve that number 2 guy that he can be that guy. But again, Alshon Jeffries is going to be about the money. I see a team like the Tennessee Titans are a team that run the ball and they need a deep threat at the end. I think
good offensive
Rams,
line.
Niners, there's a lot of them.
I will say this. Let me be very, very clear. I'm good with my man Brandon Marshall. That's my brother. Just spoke to him a few minutes ago. If he goes to the Dallas Cowboys, I'll never speak to him again. I'll never speak to him again. I will never speak to him again.
He has that ring on his finger. You'll be speaking to him.
Ring. What? A wedding ring? He's married already. He don't need him. You damn sure ain't talking about no championship ring. You can stop that nonsense.
You bring my championship rings in here.
Yeah, bring it from the 90s. Bring it from the 90s. I don't have no problem with the 90s. Bring it
How
from the
many
90s.
decades do we have to go back?
There we go.
You guys are all haters.
My hairline was here, Darren. My hairline was here.
Together? Three.
Yeah.
On that note, Darren, thank you so much for being with us. Always fun. Appreciate the insight.
Get out of here, you cowboy.
So disrespectful.
Get out of here.
The Warriors did something last night they haven't done since 2015. Find out what that is. Coming up next, and Le'Veon Bell is maybe the best running back in the NBA. Were cold last night in their first game without Kevin Durant. It'd been 146 games since the Warriors dropped back-to-back regular season games until last night. Steph Curry, 2 for 11 from three-point range, and Klay Thompson also ice cold, 1 for 11 from three-point range. Now, before the loss Thursday night, here's what Charles Barkley had to say about the Warriors' chances without KD.
Without Kevin Durant, they got 0 chance to win the championship. Actually, with the addition the Cavaliers have made, they probably are the leader in the clubhouse. But without Kevin Durant, they got no chance of winning the championship. 0? Well, let me say 0. Because they're not going to beat the Cavaliers without Kevin Durant. They're not going to beat. I wasn't even finished. If they don't have Kevin Durant, I don't even think they get out of the West.
Barkley's putting a fork in them. He says 0 chance. Max Kellerman, how concerned should Golden State be after last night?
Well, if they don't have Durant, Charles Barkley's absolutely right. I've been saying it. Many people have been saying it. They have 0 chance to win the finals without KD, of course. And they may not get out of the West without KD. All those things are true. Let's talk about the concern right now, putting KD aside for a second, assuming, let's say, he'll be back for the playoffs, but not the regular season. I'm not too concerned about the Warriors. What I saw